Hey guys, remember to like the video and hit subscribe. Generally, why they say they want their little ethno-state, okay? Hold on, let me get a Red Bull. I need energy. Ho! Anybody want to hit the Benjamin?
Say for the 50-plus Islamic states that exist across the world, that they don't deserve states of their own. It is only the Jewish state that has fallen under her significant...
Your defense of Zionists committing is almost enough for me to start. Listen, if Zionists wanted to commit against Palestinians would be deleted from the world yesterday, okay? Chill. Not that I supported the treatment of the quasi-apartheid shit that goes on. It's the Israel situation complicated. I'm just explaining the Israeli side of it, okay? Like, Palestinian side of it is rough too. There are really long, deep historical claims to some parts of the land, right? We saw a few years ago, there's that big fight over the Sheikh Jarrah. I don't know what the fuck it was called, dude. How the fuck do we... In Jerusalem? Yeah, I mean, it's a complicated situation, okay? What do you want to... What do you want me to say, okay? Everybody wants to live in the same spot, okay? Oh, it's Deanne Burns. This is probably an I think.
Significant scrutiny. And she also promulgates lies about one specific state in the form of suggesting, for example, that Israel is an apartheid state, which it is most eminently not, considering that the last unity government in Israel included an Arab party, that there are Arabs who sit on the Israeli Supreme Court, and all the rest. And then beyond that, obviously, she's...
Well, how many Arabs, though?
Engaged in some of the same sort of anti-Semitic tropes that you heard from Ye, right? The stuff about... It's all about the Benjamins, that American support for Israel is all about the Benjamins.
Hypnotize the world. Don't forget that one.
Members of her own party about this sort of stuff before.
Oh. Can you empathize with the plight of Palestinian people?
Absolutely. I mean, I you know, some of the uglier things that I've ever said in my career are things that I said very early on, 17, 18.
About normal people build, but all Arabs do is destroy. I think that's probably a tweet he regrets from like 2010.
I started writing a syndicated comment. I was 17. I'm now 38. So virtually all the dumb things, I'd say virtually all, many of the dumb things, the plurality of the dumb things that I've said came from the ages of, I would say, 17 to maybe 23. Yeah. And they are rooted, again, in sloppy thinking. I feel terrible for people who have lived under the thumb and currently live under the thumb of Hamas, which is an actual group, or the Palestinian Authority, which is a corrupt oligarchy that steals money from its people and leaves them in misery, or Islamic Jihad, which is an actual group. And they basically...
That was really tricky. That was a cute little trick. Did anybody see the trick? Did anybody see the trick that Ben just played there? That was super cute. Now, maybe he'll do it later on here. That was super cute. Lex asks him, can you empathize with any of the Palestinians? And Ben Shapiro's answer is, of course I empathize with the Palestinians. There are some really bad Palestinians that are hurting other Palestinians. Yeah, they live under Hamas. That's horrible, right? That was a cute trick. It's like me saying, like, don't you think... Can you empathize a little bit with the black struggle in the United States? And it's like, yeah, of course, dude. Being black is hard, especially when you're getting killed by other black people all the time, you know? That was a good... Is he wrong? I mean, like, Hamas sucks. I think they win elections, though, in the Gaza Strip. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that, right? But I mean, I'm pretty sure what Lex was looking for here was like, can you empathize with any of their frustrations with the state of Israel? I think that's what Lex was looking for. But
rule for the region, in my view, is if these groups were willing to make peace with Israel, they would have a state literally tomorrow. And if they are not, then there will be no peace. And it really is that simple. If Israel... The formula that's typically used has become a bit of a bumper sticker, but it happens to be factually correct. If the Palestinians put down their guns tomorrow, there would be a state. If the Israelis put down their guns, there would be no Israel.
You get attacked a lot on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
I got to ask you about your own psychology. How do you not let that break you mentally? And how do you avoid letting that lead to a resentment of the groups that attack you?
I mean, there are a few sort of practical things that I've done. So, for example, I would say that 4 years ago, Twitter was all-consuming. Twitter is an ego machine, especially the notifications button, right? The notifications button is just people talking about you all the time. And the normal human tendency is, wow, people talking about me. I got to see what they're saying about me, which is a recipe for insanity. So my wife actually said, Twitter is making your life miserable. You need to take it off your phone. So Twitter is not on my phone. If I want to log onto Twitter, I have to go onto my computer and I have to make the conscious decision to go onto Twitter and then take a look at what's going on.
I could just imagine you like there's a computer in the basement. You descend into the check Twitter.
That's pretty much
in
it.
the darkness.
I love the way he talks about his wife. The references to like because he did this before on a show where he speaks like what you're looking for in a healthy marriage or whatever. Or he did this in that thing where like my wife is concerned about like Twitter usage. She says I shouldn't do it anymore. I like it seems like his wife is an active role in his relationship, as opposed to like, oh, she's just some dumb thought that stays at home and takes care of the kids while I do my shit.
If you look at when I actually tweet, it's generally like in the run up to recording my show or when I'm prepping for my show later in the afternoon, for example.
That doesn't affect you negatively mentally, like put you in a bad mental space?
Not particularly if it's restricted to sort of what's being watched. Now, I will say that I think the most important thing is you have to surround yourself with a group of people who you trust enough to make serious critiques of you when you're doing something wrong, but also you know that they have your best interests at heart. Because the internet is filled with people who don't have your best interests at heart and who hate your guts. And so you can't really take those critiques seriously or it does wreck you. And the world is also filled with sycophants, right? Then the more successful you become, there are a lot of people who will tell you you're always doing the right thing. I'm very lucky. I got married when I was 24. My wife was 20. So she's known me long before I was famous or wealthy or anything. And so she's a good sounding board. I have a family that's willing to call me out on my bullshit, as you talked to Ye about. I have friends who are able to do that. I try to have open lines of communications with people who I believe have my best interest at heart. But one of the sort of conditions of being friends is that when you see me do something wrong, I'd like for you to let me know that so I can correct it. I don't want to leave bad impressions out there.
The sad thing about the internet, just looking at the critiques you get, I see very few critiques from people that actually want you to succeed, want you to grow. I mean, they're very, they're not sophisticated. They're cruel. The critiques are just it's not actual critiques, it's just cruelty.
And then that's most of Twitter. I mean, as I said, Twitter is a place to smack and be smacked. I mean, that's anybody who uses Twitter for an intellectual conversation, I think, is engaging in category error.
I use it to spread love. I think it's still
You're the only one. It's you and no one else, my friend.
All right. Well, on that topic, what do you think about Elon buying Twitter? What do you like? What are you hopeful on that front? What would you like to see Twitter improve?
So I'm very hopeful about Elon buying Twitter. I mean, I think that Elon is significantly more transparent than what has taken place up till now. He seems committed to the idea that he's going to broaden the Overton window to allow for conversations that simply were banned before, everything ranging from efficacy of masks with regard to COVID to whether men can become women and all the rest. A lot of things that would get you banned on Twitter before without any sort of real explanation. It seems like he's dedicated to at least explaining what the standards are going to be and being broader in allowing a variety of perspectives on the outlet, which I think is wonderful. I think that's also why people are freaking out. I think the kind of wailing and gnashing of teeth and wearing of sackcloth and ash by so many members of the legacy media, I think a lot of that is because Twitter essentially was an oligarchy in which certain perspectives were allowed and certain perspectives just were not. And that was part of a broader social media reimposed oligarchy in the aftermath of 2017. So in order to really understand, I think, what...
Oh, also, I want you to know, if you see him in chat, every single day that goes on that I'm not unbanned on Twitter, that's a specific choice that Lex has made to keep me banned. I asked him, I was like, Lex, do you think that you could pass a note on to your friend there to look at my unjust banning? They banned me for being Cuban. Jack tweeted it himself, and Lex said, no. You're going to be my YouTube slave who's never allowed on Twitter again. I'm going to tell Elon to keep you banned. Just so you know, he told me that in a personal conversation. I was like, that's really
it means for Elon to take over Twitter. I think that we have to take a look at sort of the history of media in the United States in 2 minutes or less. The United States, the media, for most of its existence up until about 1990, at least from about 1930s until the 1990s, virtually all media was 3 major television networks, a couple major newspapers, and the wire services. Everybody had a local newspaper with the wire services that basically did all the foreign policy and all the national policy. McClatchy, Reuters, AP, AFP, etc.
MMS in good faith. If black Americans decided to found an ethno-state right after the Jim Crow era, do you think they'd be justified because of historic oppression? I don't think that Jim Crow is comparable to the... Like, I'm not trying to say that there isn't racism in the United States and there wasn't racism and there was racism, but like, it was pretty fucked. And there's a lot of people around the world that are just like kill Jews a lot. They aren't just like racist. They're like, what's like racist plus wants to murder you? Genocidal? Yeah.
So that monopoly or oligopoly existed until the rise of the internet. There were sort of pokes at it in talk radio and Fox News, but there certainly was not this plethora of sources. Then the internet explodes, and all of a sudden you can get news everywhere. And the way that people are accessing that news is I believe, significantly younger than I am, but we used to do this thing called bookmarking, where you would bookmark a series of websites and then you would visit them every morning. And then social media came up. And
Is this on AOL?
Anybody else have an RSS feed? Oof. Whoa! I just got sucked back to 2010.
Yeah, exactly. You had the dial-up, and it was actually a can connected to a string, and it would go, and then there came a point where social media arose, and social media was sort of a boon for everybody because you no longer had to bookmark anything. You just
Chattel slavery was worse than the no. I'm gonna go ahead and say no. I don't want to sound like a Mossad agent, but like I'm pretty sure the was like probably one of the worst things ever. Do I sound like a shill if I say that? Like I genuinely do believe the was probably like one of the worst things ever. Probably one of the worst things in human history. Not to mention like wasn't like chattel slavery kind of like part of the Holocaust? Like didn't they get thrown in camps and also forced to work? Weren't they working there too? So like yeah, I don't know if that's maybe that's like edgy now. Maybe I have to defend that opinion now, but like I would say that like the systematic extermination of an entire group of people is probably worse than the systematic enslavement of that group of people. Slavery is still really bad though. I do want to come out strong. Okay, against slavery. I'm a huge proponent of not having slavery, but I'm also a huge proponent that the is probably worse. Okay, but you know I don't usually compare these things all the time.
followed your favorite accounts and all of them would pop up, and you follow everything on Facebook and it would all pop up, and it was all centralized. And for a while, everybody was super happy because this was the brand new wave of the future. It made everything super easy. Suddenly outlets like mine were able to see new eyeballs because it was all centralized in one place, right? You didn't have to do it through Google optimization. You could now just put it on Facebook, and so many eyeballs were on Facebook, you'd get more traffic. And everybody seemed pretty happy with this arrangement until precisely the moment Donald Trump became president. At that point, then the sort of pre-existing supposition of a lot of the powers that be, which was Democrats are going to continue winning from here on out, so we can sort of use these social media platforms as ways to push our information and still allow for there to be other information out there. The immediate response was, we need to reestablish this siphoning of information. It was misinformation and disinformation that won Donald Trump the election. We need to pressure the social media companies to start cracking down on misinformation and disinformation. And actually see this in the historical record. I mean, you can see how Jack Dorsey's talk about free speech shifted from about 2015 to about 2018. You can see Mark Zuckerberg gave a speech at Georgetown in 2018 in which he talked about free speech and its value. And by 2019, he was going in front of Congress talking about how he was responsible for the stuff that was on Facebook, which is not true. He's not responsible for the stuff on Facebook, right? It's a platform. Is AT&T responsible for the stuff you see?
Wasn't the Cambridge Analytica when did that break? Hold on. It was in 2018, 2019. Yeah. So of course, Zuckerberg changed his tune on that. That Cambridge Analytica shook all the social media companies. Did anything ever come of that breaking? Yeah. Social media companies started to be a lot more fearful, I think, of Congress bringing the hammer down on them. So they started to I think that's where like all the Google shit, like warning of misinformation, the Twitter marking of misinformation. I think all that shit was coming there. People started to get really worried about stuff like that.